Hello and welcome to Workhorse Wrestling Network, where we talk about what's cooking up in the world of professional wrestling.
Yes, we are back again on another Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're with us here for the first time, hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit the like button on this video. Hit the bell to be notified. So you'll be notified every time Workhorse Wrestling Network drops some content. That's the best way. We do have shows on Monday, on Tuesday, on shorts on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Watch along on Friday for SmackDown and Rampage. Watch along on Saturdays for Collision. So make sure and join us for all that good stuff. Tonight, I think we're going to be talking about beef, real life, and kayfabe in the world of professional wrestling. For those who don't know, we're talking about conflict, arguments, storylines, however you want to frame beef. That's what we're going to talk about. So I guess how do we want to approach this? Do we want to approach it from a perspective of like talking about specific wrestlers that have had beef, or do you just want to talk about how it impacts in general?
Well, I figure we should do both.
Let's start off with general and then
Okay.
take it to actually like specifics.
Okay. So this was your idea, CM. You want to start first, or you want to leave with your hold on? You want to leave with your clown of the week first, I guess, so we can get that out the way. That way, if for some reason this goes longer than whatever.
Tonight, folks, we're gonna have a short show. Projecting that it's only gonna be about 30 minutes because it's hot and life is lifing. So of course, clown of the week. We start off with CM Punk. Drew, thank you, Drew. I appreciate you. You're amazing. You're wonderful. I saw the clip. It was beautiful as it comes up. You see, it's like, what was it? It's an amazing song that starts off with, I see dead people. I looked and I saw one, and it was CM Punk, and Drew had just done us all a favor. Thank you, Drew. Just gotta give you appreciation there. Of course, Phil gets clown of the week, first clown of the week. Second clown of the week is going to, and I can't believe I actually have to say this because we're all adults, but it is going to the people who are mad that companies that Sika didn't wrestle in are paying their respects to him. Folks, this is not the time for tribalism. A wonderful wrestler, yes, but a wonderful human and great father, by all accounts, passed away. And it is not the time to be WWE. Oh, forget AEW, forget all this, forget all that. Like, be respectful and be mindful that this man had grandchildren, he had children. It's not the time or place, guys. It's not the time or place. And if
his family was complaining, then okay, but like y'all can shut up.
If it was not for him, we probably would not have wrestling as we know it. Yes, his family played a large role, but a lot of people directly give him attributes towards their career. So please be respectful of that. Be mindful of that. Like, in times like this, it's time for us to come together as a community and show each other love and grace and talk about the positive things that are happening, because life is too short. So while I make crack jokes on Punk ass Phil, if he needed help, 99 times I would.
If he was on fire, you would piss on him to put it out.
I wouldn't.
No, that's too far.
I have the way I would have to pee, it would burn me. But I will get some water. I would try to put it out because that's a really nasty smell. But I wouldn't pour wine or anything on it. I would get water.
I mean, I might call R. Kelly.
I don't mess with Robert or the people who made R. Kelly because the man couldn't read. But y'all mean tell me he was out here hog tying people and throwing up contracts, but he couldn't read or write. But yeah, first clown of the week, as we all know, goes to Phil. Second goes to the people who are really complaining about people paying tribute to Sika. Like, let that man get in his glory. It is very reminiscent of the Bray Wyatt incidents where people were really mad that people were paying like tribute to this man. And that's a human. Beyond wrestling, that's a human. Like, respect that. But yeah, now going on to beef. So, nice CM moment over. We're gonna talk about beef, right? Because I have beef with CM Punk. He don't even know who I am, but I got beef with him, and it's on site. If no one on this earth is around to hate on him, I have left this earth. Just put me like that. So also because last Wednesday was the wonderful, like amazing concert that Kendrick Lamar helped organize, and it was beautiful. But talking about beef in general, wrestling strives on beef. If there was no beef, wrestling would not exist. And it's not necessarily kayfabe beef, because kayfabe beef can be bad, but real life beef, such as the one that a lot of us older wrestling fans know, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. That was real life beef for a long time. Long time. Vince McMahon, and people telling the truth about Vince McMahon. Big beef for a long time. And the current longest standing beef as of right now, I believe, is Bret Hart and Goldberg. That beef is forever. If you cost me millions of dollars, I too would have beef with you. But in general, we can all agree that beef makes the world go round, right? Well, in wrestling, it makes the world go round.
You know, I think it's a tough situation because there's two different things here. I think for wrestling to be good, it has to be soap opera-ish to a certain extent, and I think to be soap opera-ish, you have to have the conflict and the drama. You've got to have, all that stuff. So, and at the same time, like, I don't think real life beef between wrestlers backstage is good for any company. I don't think that's a good environment for anybody ever. I mean, you worked at a job where you got coworkers that got beef with each other. So we're beef, that's not a good situation. Like it just never is, let alone if you got beef with somebody. So I think it can be both. Yes, I do agree that you have it both ways. I don't think you can avoid anytime, especially you got, heavily testosterone driven men together in a locker room, you're bound to have beef. It's just inevitable in real life. And so, I mean, you can't get away from it in that regard. And I do think it is required to make wrestling storylines good. So it's a fine line.
There are two beefs that I know of that have been longer. Jake the Snake Roberts and Honky Tonk Man, because Jake Roberts swears that the guitar that Honky Tonk Man hit him with wasn't a gimmick guitar. And the other one being Jim Cornette and Vince Russo.
Yeah.
That's not beef. That's hate. That is hate. That man said he gonna be on this man's grave.
Like, yeah, Jim Cornette said, I lost weight so I could make sure that I lived long enough that I'd live to piss on his grave when he dies.
That's not beef. That's hate. Like, if you are planning to die after someone else dies just so you could pee on their grave, that is hate. That is extreme hate. I don't think I would ever hate anybody that much that I would willingly stay on this earth just to hate them. Oh.
I do think that it's interesting because, wrestling in many ways imitates a lot of real life, right? And I love the Kendrick I love Kendrick's new song, the diss song towards Drake, and I don't have any issue with it in any way, shape, or form. The pop out was amazing. In the past, I think this is fairly. I say friendly. It's not friendly. He called him a pedophile and told him don't keep your kids around him. So I mean, it's as friendly as it can be. But they're not going to go out and shoot each other. In the past, that hasn't been the case in the world of hip hop. So I do think sometimes you got to be careful with what you say. Sometimes I think a lot of people don't care. That's human nature. A lot of those people don't care. So it is what it is. A lot of rappers don't care. But I do think sometimes you got to be aware of that stuff. And even in the world of wrestling, like some people do take stuff, in promos over the edge. They say things that people don't like. They go into business for themselves at times. They go off script, say things that are wrong. And it does create real life beef. And so you got to be careful what you're saying to people. Maybe even if you can whoop that person's ass, that's not really the point here nor there. I mean, you just got to be careful about what you say to people and about people at certain times, I guess is what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way.
To rebut that, when we speak on people getting shot, that's not just hip hop culture. That is,
Oh, sure.
Sam Cooke. But
yeah.
It's when that happened, that was stoked by outsiders to get a reaction that would enable people to choose one side versus the other and cause further division. It was very intentionally done. It was done in a way that mimics what happened with gang culture. And if you actually kind of sit back and study it, you start to see patterns every single time. But when it comes to beef, I think, go ahead, Sammy.
Also to rebuke what ALW said, Drake ain't gonna shoot anybody. He'd pay somebody else to do it for him.
I didn't want to be the one to say it, but there's an interesting track record that folks should track down between certain things and
things be found.
albums coming out and just saying there certain connections get found. But also I think that it's very interesting to me that I've noticed something in wrestling. When it's beef between two men over you didn't gimmick this and then you hit me and you hurt me, and then including in that, like, you took away opportunity that I really wanted that would progress my career, I feel some type of way about it. That type of beef usually can be resolved relatively easily. Then there is beef that involves significant others and or just women in general, and how that plays out. Like, for me, I think of the beef between Reby Sky and Ashley Mazzaro, where it was more of a one-sided beef, but the taunting, the negativity, the stories that were put out, a lot of the things that happened were mental attacks versus more physical attacks. So ALW on a certain level, I agree that when it comes to beef, especially in wrestling, it can be really dangerous and it can lead to some real big issues. And there always seems to have to be a beef. And if there's not a beef, somebody creates one to have a story to tell, to sell, to push.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that was interesting to me when I was sitting down and I was thinking about the topic, because I like Phil, but it didn't seem like there were really big beefs in AEW until he got there, and then all of a sudden it's beef, it's backstage fighting, it's everybody wants to leave, it's this, it's that, it's all these things, and I found that really interesting, and just how that beef plays out. between he and essentially like the Young Bucks, but also like the elite crew.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't. You're much more tuned into what's going on off camera and behind the scenes than I am, so you can comment a lot more on that. Sometimes on screen, just paying attention to the on screen stuff without knowing what's going on, it's hard to decipher what's kayfabe and what's real life, and when people are really upset and when they're not. So I mean, obviously wrestling thrives on it, both apparently in the locker room as well. Doesn't surprise me. I don't necessarily think that's a great environment, but it is what it is. I think that's how it's always been to a certain extent. So, and probably how it will always be. Is conflict good in general?
Healthy conflict, yeah.
Yeah.
Sammy, what you think?
Well, I was thinking of a Mark Calloway Undertaker interview that I watched, where he mentioned about like Giant Gonzalez constantly hitting him and getting mad at him for that. Hulk Hogan saying that Undertaker landed him on his head, but when he went and rewatched the tape back, Hulk Hogan's head was like a foot off the ground. And then there was also the other dude who he actually did hit their head on the ground, and he apologized for it. And the dude didn't, wasn't accepting the apology and was like, well, if you got a problem, we can take it outside. And it's like, landing this dude on his head, and now you're threatening to beat him up too. Made me laugh.
I think that as CM said, usually if it's a botch move, that stuff can be resolved. The wrestler apologizes. The person knows it wasn't intentional. Although there are some cases, I mean, people are mad. Like you said, Bret Hart is still mad at Bill Goldberg. A lot of people are mad at Goldberg because they feel like he never cared to try to get any better or become anything that stopped hurting people. The person stopped hurting people. But, that's, I don't know if that's true or not. But I think that stuff can be solved. A lot of times if people are just upfront about it and people apologize, and I'm trying to work harder, you can tell that people are trying to work at it, and things happen. It is a combat sport, and stuff does happen. People will get hurt at certain times. It's just inevitable. It's human nature. So the spouses and stuff. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if we're especially if we're buddies, but even if we're just people all in the same locker room, essentially, a locker room for all intents and purposes. And I know this sounds kind of weird, but it seems to me that an AEW locker room or a WWE locker room is almost like a team locker room. It would be like being on a football or, basketball team in their locker room. And these guys are people that you're with all the time. You see them regularly. They become your friends, even to a certain extent, the ones you don't like, maybe especially the ones you don't like. But if one of those people you find out is fucking your wife, yeah, I'm gonna be hot. Like, not just to my wife, but like especially they're like, you got an issue there, right? I mean, that's a big issue. So, or girlfriend or fiance.
Hold on. Wait. Sammy, before you say something, this man just said that he ain't know if it was true that Goldberg won't try to get back. Bro, you can look at the Goldberg matches and see that he won't try to get back.
No, I know. No.
That's why I got so offended by saying Jade was like Goldberg. Nah. She tried to get better. She worked her butt off. She added things to her arsenal. She works hard. Goldberg is a Goldberg match is a Goldberg match is a Goldberg match. This man gave himself a concussion by headbutting an inanimate object.
So two feuds that live rent-free in my brain. Two beefs. So I'll get this one out of the way first. Edge and Matt Hardy.
That was one of the beefs I was talking about, but as more and more comes out, is that a beef or is that somebody escaping a situation that was really, really bad?
And the company didn't make it easier for her.
Nope. made her look like she was a horrible human, and then you find out the truth. But go ahead.
I think that's all that needs to be said about that. I'll move on to the other one. This one's a lot more lighthearted. FTR and the Young Bucks.
Is it beef when the whole elite crew gave FTR a name that they could use? Is that beef? Because if you go back to BTE, folks, if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you go back to BTE, right before the episode, well, there's some things before that, but the episode where Tamatonga and when Cody and Kenny get in the brawl and Tamatonga's in the back, like watching them throw chairs, and he's just coolly sitting there. A few episodes after that, it's like F the Revival, and it gets shortened to FTR because issues. When they were all like in Ring of Honor, there was like a beef because it was like, we're the best. No, we're the best. No, we're the best. No, we're the best. Well, when you're free, come fight us. Same situation. But because they gave us FTR, is that still a beef, or is that, let me help you out here? Let me make sure you know you got options. Is that a beef?
It's very like anime. Like, you called me this, so now I'm going to take that and make it my own weapon against you.
True.
I have no. Again, I don't pay attention to really what's going on backstage. But I have this feeling that they're all backstage hugging each other. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe they do have real beef backstage, but I have a feeling that most of that's kayfabe. So,
yeah, I believe.
And they need it. I mean, that it is one of the better feuds in AEW. So, I mean, I'm here for it. I mean, I like it.
But it bled through from real life to on screen.
And it started. The funny thing is, it all started because they were like, this team is one of the best in the world. And what are you doing with them? Because that was when they had them shaving each other's backs in the shower. And it was just like, why are you wasting these talented men? They could come over here and they could wrestle. They'd be second best, but they could come over here and wrestle. And then FTR was like, second best, we beat y'all butts. And then it just escalated. It was a wonderful time. I enjoy things like that. But speaking of, now that you gave me that, I think maybe the beef that was on BTE between Cody and Triple H, where Triple H was trying to get him to re-sign with WWE before AEW was formed, that could be considered a beef. Even though it was played by Frankie Kazarian, which irony, there's just so much irony in that now. And just trying to get him to resign and all that stuff. But beefs can be lighthearted and fun. But I think it's kind of like what ALW said before. It can turn dark, and it can turn dark kind of quickly, which is unfortunate. But I will say, and this is just me, y'all feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, I've never heard of a beef ending in someone being unalived. That's more of a kayfabe thing, and people not understanding that these are humans and they are playing certain characters. But I've never heard of a beef ending someone's life. Please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if I am.
I'll take your word for it because I don't really remember. I wouldn't be the historian of the group, so I'll take your word for it. But that goes to further just show you that really that what you see on the screen is not a lot of times what's going on backstage. Backstage, a lot of these people are very close friends and they get along fine, and most of the time it's all fine. And what you're seeing is all just for the camera. So every once in a while you got some real situations, and it is what it is, and those situations help, resolve themselves. But you're right. I don't know anybody that has been unalive because of it myself. I mean, not that I remember.
I will say that Wendy Richter did retire because of her mentor.
No, I mean, I've heard a lot of stuff about Moolah in general,
Mhm.
about her driving a lot of women out of wrestling that wanted to become wrestlers that came to her school, a lot of all those kind of things. So no, she apparently was not a very nice person. So
You were so polite with it. She was a bitch. And I guess because I'm a woman, I can say that. I don't, knowing what we know now, DNA tests speaking as they do. Yeah, I'm glad people listen to I'm glad WWE listens to the fans in that particular instance. Do you all think that if there is no beef present in a wrestling company, the company can thrive? Like no backstage beef. Like there might be beef on camera or whatever for what is it called? I don't want to say for play, but like for kayfabe reasons.
At least scripted beef. You need at least scripted beef.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it bothered me. I'm not gonna lie, like, and I'm not a soft person, but it bothered me a little when Undertaker complained about now these kids are playing video games and we used to have knives and so, it's like, well, really, that wasn't a better environment, dude. Like, it's a way better environment when everyone's sitting around joking and playing video games. Let's be honest about it. And everyone gets along and everyone fucking likes each other and everyone's having a good time. So ideally, if you're running a company, sure, you want all your employees to get along. I mean, you as a boss have issues when your employees don't get along. So in theory, yeah, you want them all to get along. Is that going to happen? No, definitely not. It doesn't happen in office environments. It doesn't happen in any environment, especially not in an environment where people are pitted against each other to fight. It just is what it is. And when you have a lot of highly testosterone, lead-driven men or women that are, highly estrogen driven, whatever the case may be, those, those, those close quarters sometimes can lead to stuff. So, I mean, backstage, ideally you wouldn't want it, but I think it's unavoidable. And on camera, you have to have it. I mean, could you imagine having wrestling without conflict? I mean, what is it? I mean, it's bad. It's bad fake UFC, right? I mean,
even UFC does the beefs.
Well, that's what I say. Sometimes you get a fight in UFC where you don't have a lot of beef. It's just you guys they're just fighting for a title or whatever. But it's always more exciting when the guys talk shit to each other or when they have beef or when there's actually something to play off of. There's meat on the bone.
I'm not going to let you get away with that because the way you phrased that made it sound like somebody just pulled out a titty and smacked somebody with it. Just said like, what?
What? I don't want to say, I don't just want to keep saying that it's men that are only, that it's all just testosterone driven men that are having beef because women do too. And there's, I don't know what you say about, I guess, catty women backstage. I don't know what you call it, but like.
Well, I will speak more so for the women and the things that I've noticed. I've noticed that a lot of times when it comes to women, it may be physical, it may reach that point, but a lot of times it's really mental. It's really like saying stuff to the dirt sheets. It's like spreading certain rumors. It's saying that such and such did such and such to get her role. It's putting out people's business. That's what I've noticed with women in wrestling. But I've also noticed, it might be because I don't pay attention to Japan. I don't really hear that much about that from Japan. And I'm wondering if that's because a lot of these women in Japan who wrestle have been wrestling for either so long that they're just like, whatever, or because they know that if they have beef to the level that these men do, it could result in their company closing down. And then what are they going to do? So I'm wondering if kind of that.
Like all the beef I really hear is like when women from outside of Japan come in and then they start beef. Like there's certain instances, but it's like very rare. Like, and usually I believe it's kayfabe anyways. I would like to bring up two of the dumbest beefs in history, at least to my current knowledge. Braun Strowman on Flippy Dudes. And what did WWE do? They put him in a tag team with Ricochet immediately following that.
That's
Like,
funny.
well, I mean, it was a couple months later, but like,
I mean, he's hardly the first one to say that, right? I mean, or to say stuff like that, or to have issues with those kind of guys. Right? I mean, no flips, just kicks. Didn't FTR say no flips, just kicks? I mean, didn't I mean?
I think with Braun on that one, that was jealousy because he couldn't do the flippy stuff. He's like no Jeff Cobb. He even Brian Cage. He's no like Takeshita. Aerodynamically, he just couldn't do it.
You know what's funny about that? Like, he shouldn't be jealous because he's in the company where really what he does is prized way over any of those flippy kind of guys or anything that any of those flippy kind of guys. If he had some actual like charisma and could actually perform a little bit, he'd be a fucking megastar. He's already a pretty big star without having any real ability. So because of the way he looks and so on. So if he should be happy he's not Ricochet. So
bro, that was so shady. What's the other one, Sammy? What's the other one?
Seth Rollins and Will Ospreay.
I didn't even know they had beef.
It was okay. So what had happened?
I gotta be educated on this one.
Seth was talking about money, and this was the time he was bragging about like being better because of contracts and stuff. And Ospreay was like, "Money ain't gonna make you better. Like I could beat you." All this stuff, which is why a lot of people thought that Ospreay was going to go to WWE because of the match with Seth Rollins. But then it's like, what do you do after the match with Seth Rollins? But
it all started when Rollins said, "Find anyone else alive who does what I do as well as I do it as often as I do it. You can't." And then Will Ospreay tweeted back, "I'm alive." And it all started from there.
It just became a big old mess. And then it resulted in Seth talking about his bankroll, all this stuff. And it was just stupid. I agree with you, Sammy. That might be the stupidest one that happened because for what reason? And that one, I believe, actually was real. That wasn't a kayfabe. That really was like Seth. That was not, actually. Let me take that back. That was not Seth Rollins. That was Tyler Black. That was a Tyler Black moment because he wanted to be. When he left, he was the top, and he really wanted to be the top again. And Ospreay took that crown. Him and Zack Sabre Jr., who I did not realize was as tall as he is. Look up if y'all haven't had the opportunity, go on Twitter and look up Zack Sabre Jr. versus Hechizero from this weekend. Technical masterpiece. My joints hurt from some of them things they were doing.
Another tweet that Rollins had sent in that dispute was, "We got the better you here. His name's Ricochet."
Yeah, I see where that happened.
I mean, it feels like all that should just be in fun, and I hope that it is, and that Will Ospreay really isn't sensitive to the point where like he sees that tweet and can't help but respond, "I'm alive." Like really, you could just move on, right? I mean, you don't have to feed into it. So I'm hoping that it's all just playing and good fun, and that match would be amazing if we ever have it. So I'm here for it. At the same time,
the thing is I think Will Ospreay came into it as playful, having fun, responding, just like, "I'm alive." Like, what are you talking about? I'm the best wrestler out here. Like,
he was joking, and then Seth took it as serious, and then it kind of escalated to serious.
Right? Yeah. Obviously, Seth's been doing this a lot longer than Will Ospreay. So we're talking about bankrolls. Obviously, Seth has a lot more money. He's been in WWE for a long time.
I don't think he's been doing
it
at the
same time,
much longer.
That doesn't make him a better wrestler. I mean,
like Rollins might be 5 years older, but like Will Ospreay started when he was 16.
He's done it at a higher level than Ospreay.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the WWE, we believe that made him more money. But also part of the beef that actually comes from Colt Cabana and CM Punk is Colt Cabana's money. And the fact that this man was making as much money as he was making outside of WWE because he learned how to monetize himself. And how all of that played out. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the infamous It ended with the infamous muffin incident at the scrum where Colt's mother was mentioned and her finances were mentioned in a very derogatory way.
The best at doing it was probably the Young Bucks, though. Like, didn't they have like Funko Pops and everything?
They took the blueprint from Colt because Colt was really the first one to have like that podcast, to have that merch and have the outside merch.
Oh yeah, he probably gave them advice.
Books, and you have the Bullet Club teaming up and putting out wrestling merchandise into Hot Topic, having those Funko Pops, having that more cross-branded with like BCE. And people had beef with them because of that, because they're earning an actual living outside of wrestling, and showing others and helping others with that. But also an example of like kayfabe beef that has transcended companies, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, from company to company, their beef just stands and it just works. And it's amazing because they're best friends, but they know how to separate business from real. And it goes along with what ALW was saying. You have to have at least kayfabe beef, but you have to have people who understand where the kayfabe ends and where real life begins. And when you have that and you have that maturity, it opens up a lot of doors, and it makes, to me, it makes the product better when people can actually learn the difference.
Jim Cornette did not pick up on the Young Bucks doing that back in Ring of Honor because, like, you know, he didn't see them as anything special. Like, oh, it's the two brothers from Impact. Okay, whatever. I'll offer them a small amount of money. They'll be here for a minute and then they can go somewhere else. But, like, you know, they took the money and they were like, give us more work. We're ready to work. Like, we'll take the small amount, keep it going. Like, we need publicity. Like, we can take the small amount. We can make money in other ways. Like, we just need presence on shows.
Right.
Jim Cornette and his beef with anybody who doesn't go with his 80s mentality of wrestling. We can go on and on about Jim Cornette and beefs. He might have the most beefs of
I'll leave it to you. Sorry.
Oh wow. These all just popped up at one time. Yep. Hello, yep. Mr. Samoan, the Samoan Watchman. Thank you for subscribing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm not gonna that first one. I'm not even gonna attempt because I think that's Samoan and I don't speak Samoan. But I believe it says like hello or good evening, family. So welcome to the fam. We are actually wrapping up because we are taking it a little bit easy. Let me phrase this: the guys are taking it a little bit easy on me, so I could still for the whole episode. In case y'all are new and don't know, I am 9 months pregnant. And I'm very tired. So once I get off of this, I'm gonna go to sleep.
Cheers to that.
And we wanted to have something that's a little bit lighthearted, given everything that's happening currently in the world, given that we lost a great human today. Just something lighthearted, something a little bit fun. And, you know, when you think of beefs, as we wrap this up, tell us what you think of. Like, what's the beef that you think of? What's one that we maybe didn't talk about?
I got another one. Samoa Joe and Scott Hall.
Steiner. One of the greatest promos ever. Thank you. So am I.
They gave Samoa Joe a live mic and said, say what you want to say. And oh boy, did he say what he wanted to say.
They learned. Don't give Samoa Joe a live mic and let him say whatever.
Kevin Nash was not ready for his words
at all. Yes. Yes, the Samoan Watchman. Yes. Yes.
We are big Samoa Joe fans here for sure.
That was my first that was my first Samoan crush. TNA hooked me. But yes, as we wrap up here tonight, please make sure to tell us who or what beefs that you can think of. They could be kayfabe, they could be real in the world of wrestling, and what's the impact of these beefs on the wrestling business? Because as much as we may hate some of the real life beefs did help lay the foundation for wrestling. Maybe not the best, but it did.
I got one more. Dwayne Johnson and Shawn Michaels.
Who?
The Rock and Shawn Michaels.
Ooh. You ain't getting me in trouble with Anika.
He said some nasty things about Dwayne's grandma.
You are not getting me in trouble with Anika. You know that's her man. You know that's her man. You're not having her come beat me up.
I think that's a much longer feud than the only feud that would be longer would be Jake the Snake and Honky Tonk Man.
Look,
Coming is great.
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you. I think Bret Hart and Goldberg might outlive the beef between Jim Cornette and Vince Russo. Not by much, but I think that one might hold on a little bit longer.
Cornette's not the only one that has that on-site lifelong beef with Vince Russo either. So
you might be better off finding who don't have beef with Vince Russo. Oh, I didn't know that one.
That reminds me, on our other show, Enter the Square Circle, we did a King of the Ring. ALW had The Rock and I had Stone Cold. Stone Cold won about 20 seconds.
He squashed him for sure.
It's because of ALW. So,
hey, do nothing but pick the ramp. I wasn't controlling him.
Oh,
He slapped them tribal cheeks.
Oh, ooh.
Oh, was that too far?
Way too far. But again, we're wrapping up because life is life and we all kind of need sleep. So please subscribe to us on all social media. We go live. We have recordings just about every day of the week. We appreciate y'all being here. Much love to y'all. Please take some time. I don't know if I'm supposed to be able to hear you, ALW, but I can't. Please take some time to relax, enjoy yourself, enjoy your family, love on each other. It's gonna be a long, hot summer. It's gonna be an interesting summer. We appreciate y'all for being here with us. We love y'all. Y'all are amazing. Again, if you are rewatching, tell us some of your favorite beefs, real or kayfabe, and how that changed the landscape of wrestling. Until next time. ALW will take us out eventually.
I'm trying to find the record. Sorry.